This video is about the Cold War and its impact on US and German relations. Subscribe for more. Amidst the smoke-filled rooms of Washington, D.C., and the shadowy alleyways of Berlin, two nations found themselves entwined in a high-stakes game of espionage, ideology, and survival. The year was 1949, and the world was still reeling from the devastation of World War II. As Europe struggled to rise from the ashes, the United States and the Soviet Union began to carve out their spheres of influence, setting the stage for a Cold War that would reshape international relations for decades. In a dimly lit conference room in the Pentagon, Major James Hawthorne sat, staring at the map sprawled across the table, a patchwork quilt of Europe, stitched together by lines of division. Hawthorne, a seasoned intelligence officer with a hawkish reputation, was known for his ability to read the pulse of the enemy. His eyes narrowed as he traced the border separating West Germany from the encroaching Eastern Bloc. The Iron Curtain had descended, and it seemed to Hawthorne that the stakes had never been higher. Across the Atlantic, in the storied halls of the Reichstag, Angela Schneider, a rising star in West Germany's fledgling government, faced her own battle. The daughter of a vehement officer who had fought fiercely in the last war, Angela was determined to redefine her nation's path. With a steel resolve, she championed the Marshall Plan, a lifeline offered by the Americans to revive their war-torn economy. Yet the specter of the Soviet threat loomed large, and Angela knew that the decision she made could alter the fate of millions. The tension between the two superpowers was palpable. While the United States sought to contain communism and spread democracy, the Soviets were keen to expand their influence, and in the center of this geopolitical turmoil lay West Germany, a country struggling to find its identity amid lingering guilt from its past and the pressures of a divided future. Angela's vision of a prosperous, democratic Germany was a fragile dream, one that could be shattered in an instant. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Berlin, whispers of dissent began to circulate. The Socialist Unity Party, backed by Moscow, was gaining traction, and the threat of a communist uprising hung in the air. Angela knew that if they did not act swiftly, the gains made through American assistance could evaporate. Yet there was more at stake than just political maneuvering. She had a personal score to settle with the man who had betrayed her family during the war. Meanwhile, Major Hawthorne received a coded message from an informant. It spoke of a secret meeting between high-ranking members of the Socialist Unity Party, the very same group that Angela was trying to thwart. They were planning a coup to overthrow the West German government. Hawthorne's instincts kicked in. He understood that time was running out. He gathered a small team of agents, including the enigmatic Emily Carter, a brilliant cryptographer with a reputation for cracking the toughest codes. Emily was fiercely independent and had her own reasons for wanting to thwart the communists. The two had a complicated history, filled with unspoken tensions and mutual respect. As they prepared for their mission, Hawthorne couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. He knew the stakes were high. If they failed, it wouldn't just be a setback for West Germany's fledgling government, it could escalate into a larger conflict that would draw in the United States and the Soviet Union directly. The Cold War was not just an ideological battle, it had the potential to ignite another global conflict. In the dead of night, the team infiltrated a nondescript building on the outskirts of Berlin where the meeting was to take place. The atmosphere was charged, filled with suspicion and fear. They crept through the darkened halls, hearts racing, adrenaline pumping. Each agent was equipped with a silenced weapon, ready for anything. The sound of their footsteps echoed ominously as they approached the conference room where the conspirators gathered. Inside, a heated debate raged among the party officials. They spoke of revolution, of the need to rally the masses, and of their allegiance to the Soviet Union. Angela, who had somehow managed to slip in unnoticed, listened intently from a corner, her heart pounding. She recognized several faces from her father as past men who had once worn the uniform of the Reich, now cloaked in the rhetoric of socialism. Betrayal twisted in her gut. She had come to stop them, but she needed evidence of their treachery. As Hawthorne and Emily prepared to burst into the room, a sudden shout from within caught their attention. "We will not let the Americans dictate our future. This is our time." The voice was familiar to Angela. It was Friedrich, a man her father had once considered a friend. Her eyes narrowed, determination surging through her veins. Hawthorne made a motion to breach the door when a gunshot rang out from inside, followed by chaos. The meeting erupted into shouts and screams. In an instant, all plans changed. With bullets flying, the team stormed in, weapons drawn. Emily spotted Angela amidst the fray, her face a mask of fury and fear. She had to protect her. She was the key to understanding the German psyche in this conflict. As the agents engaged in a fierce firefight with the group of conspirators, Angela seized the moment. She lunged toward Friedrich, grabbing a nearby chair and swinging it at him with all her might. The chair shattered against his back, and he turned, stunned. "You were a traitor," she yelled, eyes blazing. The chaos continued around them, but in that moment, all that mattered was the confrontation. The room was a cacophony of violent gunfire echoed, bodies fell, and the air thickened with tension. Major Hawthorne, locked in combat with a burly man who had once been a soldier, wrestled for control. The stakes had escalated dramatically, and they were fighting not just for the outcome of a meeting, but for the future of a nation. "Angela, et thou," a Hawthorne shouted as he fired a shot that took down Friedrich's closest ally. Angela ducked, her heart pounding not just from the adrenaline of battle, but from the realization that she was now inextricably tied to the outcome of this conflict. The line between ally and adversary blurred in the chaos, and she knew that the Cold War would forge unlikely alliances. As the last shots rang out and silence settled over the room, Hawthorne surveyed the scene. Bodies sprawled across the floor, the remnants of a plot foiled, but questions hung heavy in the air. What would this mean for West Germany, for the relationship with the United States, and for Angela's vision of the future? The weight of responsibility pressed down on Hawthorne. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Angela stood, breathless, amidst the carnage. She locked eyes with Hawthorne, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. They were no longer just soldiers in a geopolitical chess game. They were players entwined in a larger narrative that spanned nations and ideologies. The intensity of the moment faded, leaving behind a chilling realization. The Cold War would not just reshape borders, it would redefine identities and create enemies in places they never expected. As they exited the building, the night air felt heavy with uncertainty. The world was watching, and the next moves would be crucial. As they stepped into the shadows, the echoes of their confrontation lingered. What had they truly uncovered, and would it be enough to thwart the looming threat of communism? The enigma of a divided Germany and its relationship with the United States was only beginning to unfold. But one thing was clear, the next act of this global drama was about to begin, and the stakes had never been higher. The Cold War was not just a conflict of nations, it was a contest for the very soul of a generation. What awaited them in the unfolding chapters of this historical struggle? The answer would reveal itself, shrouded in the mist of a war that had only just begun to unravel. The acrid smell of gunpowder still lingered in the air as Major Hawthorne, Emily, and Angela exited the grim building and slipped into the shadows of Berlin's night. The gravity of the evening hung like a heavy fog, obscuring their thoughts while the distant wail of sirens grew louder. Angela's heart raced, not just from the adrenaline of the confrontation, but from the realization that they had narrowly escaped a catastrophe that could have changed the course of their emerging democracy. Hawthorne turned to Angela, urgency etched in his features. "You have to understand, Angela, this was only a small faction. There are many more who feel the same way, and they're not going to give up easily." His voice was low, but the intensity of his gaze conveyed the weight of their situation. Angela nodded, her mind racing. The betrayal she had witnessed was emblematic of a deeper schism within German society. "We need to expose them. We must show the people who they were truly siding with. If they were willing to engage in violence, how can we trust their ideology?" Emily stepped forward, her cryptographic mind already whirring with possibilities. "We need evidence. Documents, recordings, anything that proves their connections to Moscow. That will make it harder for them to rally support. We may have disrupted their meeting tonight, but we need to cut off their resources." With their course of action set, they moved quickly, knowing that every second counted. They reached a safe house, an innocuous apartment cluttered with old newspapers and the faint smell of stale coffee. Inside, Hawthorne began examining the gear they had brought with them. "If we can breach the network, we can find out who else is involved." Angela quickly plugged her phone into a charger, her fingers trembling not from fear, but from anticipation. In the recesses of her mind, the image of Friedrich loomed large. His words of allegiance to the Soviet Union still echoed, a stark reminder of the ideological battle that had taken root in her homeland. "I can't believe he would turn. I thought he was different." Hawthorne glanced at her, his tone softening. "People can surprise you in war. It's not just about politics, it's about survival." The next few hours blurred together in a whirlwind of activity. Angela dove into the world of the conspirators, using her connections with local journalists and contacts within the government to gather information. Meanwhile, Emily worked tirelessly to decode intercepted communications. The air crackled with urgency, and silence only amplified the tension. Just before dawn, Emily finally let out a breath she had been holding. "Ivy got something." there are encrypted communications between members of the Socialist Unity Party and non-Soviet operatives. They were gearing up for a larger movement, possibly even a public demonstration to sway the masses. Hawthorne and Angela leaned in, their hopes rising. If we can expose this before it happens, we can rally support for the democratic cause, Angela said, her mind racing ahead. Agreed, Hawthorne replied, his resolve hardening. But we need to be careful. If they catch wind that we re onto them, they'll double down on their resistance. We must act quickly and in secrecy. As they planned their next move, the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, casting a soft glow over Berlin. But the light offered little comfort. The Cold War was tightening its grip, and the stakes were escalating. The trio devised a strategy to infiltrate the ranks of the Socialist Unity Party. Angela, leveraging her past connections, proposed a risky but potentially fruitful plan. They need a face to rally behind, and if I can get close enough, I might be able to unearth more secrets. Hawthorne narrowed his eyes in concern. It is dangerous, Angela. If they suspect anything and I know the risks, she cut him off, her determination palpable. But if this is going to work, I need to be in the thick of it. As they debated the plan, the hum of a car engine interrupted their thoughts. Peering through the window, Hawthorne caught sight of a black sedan parked across the street. We might have company, he warned. Emily quickly moved toward the window to get a better view. They look like they were waiting for someone. We should act, Angela. We don't have time to waste, Hawthorne urged. If they were watching us, we were compromised. Then let us draw them out, she suggested, her voice steady. I'll go out and meet with the contacts. If they were tailing me, it will buy you time to gather more intel. He hesitated, weighing the risk against the potential reward. Angela met his gaze. I have to. This is my fight too. With a reluctant nod, Hawthorne agreed. They quickly formulated a plan, setting up a rendezvous point where Angela could meet her contacts while ensuring a nearby vantage point for Hawthorne and Emily. As she stepped into the cool morning air, every instinct told her to turn back. But she pushed through, heart racing, determined to reclaim her country from the shadows of its past. The meeting point was an inconspicuous cafe nestled in a corner of Berlin. As she entered, she felt a mix of anticipation and fear. The smell of brewing coffee mingled with the sounds of hushed conversations, creating an atmosphere thick with secrecy. Angela spotted a small table in the back where Friedrich sat, his face obscured by the brim of his hat. Her heart raced, but she stilled herself. This was her chance. As she approached, he looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. Angela, he said, his tone laced with an unsettling calmness. I have questions, she replied, keeping her tone steady. About the meeting last night, you were talking of revolution. His expression hardened, and she sensed the tension crackling between them. You shouldn't be involved in this. You don't know what you're getting into. Then enlighten me, Angela challenged, leaning closer. What are you planning? Friedrich laughed, a sound devoid of humor. You think you can stop us? We were just getting started. The people are restless, and they were hungry for change. You siding with the very forces that destroyed this country. The words struck her like a blow, but she held her ground. And aligning with Moscow is what? A path to freedom, to better than what you were offering, he shot back, his voice low, dangerous. You may think you were different, but you soon realize you were merely a pawn in the American game. Angela felt the weight of his words, but she couldn't let him see her falter. Thus she exchanged heated words with Friedrich, a lingering dread settled in her stomach. In a world where ideologies clashed, where her past was haunted by betrayal, the lines between friend and foe blurred ever closer. Outside, Hawthorne and Emily remained vigilant, keeping their eyes peeled for any sign of trouble. But as Angela's conversation intensified, an uneasy feeling crept over them. The Cold War was not just a battle of nations, it was a struggle for the very soul of Germany and the future of Europe. Would Angela's determination be enough to turn the tide against the rising threat? And what secrets lay buried within the ranks of those who sought to undermine her vision? As she locked eyes with Friedrich, the stakes escalated. The next moves would determine not just her fate, but the fate of a nation caught in the crosshairs of a war that had only just begun. The cafe's atmosphere thickened as Angela and Friedrich faced off, a battle of ideologies playing out beneath the surface of their conversation. The sunlight streaming through the window cast a stark contrast to the shadows lurking in her heart. Unbeknownst to her, Hawthorne and Emily remained outside, strategizing the next move while keeping a watchful eye on the unfolding drama. Change. Angela interjected, her voice low yet fierce. You're leading people down a path of destruction. feeding them lies wrapped in promises of salvation. She leaned in, challenging him to consider the consequences of his actions. Friedrich's expression twisted into a smirk, a mask of arrogance. A path paved with American dollars. You've forgotten our history, Angela. The Allies may have won the war, but the remnants of that victory still haunt us. You think they care about us? You think they'll grant us freedom? The freedom isn't he given, it has fought for, Angela replied, her determination solidifying. But you are not fighting for freedom, you are fighting to plunge us back into tyranny, with the Soviets pulling your strings. Friedrich's eyes darkened. You've bought into their propaganda. The Americans are just as manipulative as the Soviets. They want to use you as a pawn in their game, and one day, you'll see that I was right. Angela swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing down on her. Yet, she refused to back down. I am not afraid to stand up against tyranny, no matter where it comes from. You've deceived the people, and I will expose you. Outside, Hawthorne and Emily exchanged tense glances. We need to intervene before this escalates, Hawthorne whispered, scanning the cafe's entrance. But if she isn't too deep, Angela can handle herself, Emily insisted, though the uncertainty in her voice betrayed her concern. But we need to be ready. If something goes wrong, we have to get her out of there. Back inside, Angela realized she was running out of time. Friedrich's allies would likely be monitoring the conversation. I need proof of your connections, she pressed. Let me see the documents, the communications with Moscow. Show me you're not just full of empty threats. Friedrich's eyes glinted with a dangerous mix of irritation and amusement. You really think they would let me do that? You underestimate your place in this game. But I am not without a choice. He leaned back, contemplating her words as if weighing the possibility of manipulation. All right, let us play your game. Meet me tonight at the abandoned warehouse by the spree. I'll bring something that may interest you. Tonight? Angela echoed, knowing that this could be a trap. But she sensed an opportunity to uncover vital information. You'll have what you need to prove that you're not just another pawn, like the rest of us. But make no mistake, I want to be alone. Friedrich chuckled softly, realization dawning on him. Bring your friends. I welcome all witnesses to the truth. With that, the exchange ended, and they parted ways. Angela stepped out of the cafe, her heart pounding as she spotted Hawthorne and Emily waiting nearby. The tension in the air felt electric, the stakes having risen dramatically. Are you okay? Emily asked, concern etched on her face. I am fine, Angela replied, her voice steadier than she felt. But we have a lead. He wants to meet tonight at a warehouse near the spree. We need to be prepared for anything. Hawthorne nodded, his mind already racing with contingency plans. We'll need backup and a way to gather intel without compromising ourselves. This could be a setup to eliminate you. And then we'll have to turn the tables on him, Angela suggested, her resolve solidifying. If we're going to expose the conspiracy, we need to act like we're playing by his rules. The trio made their way back to the safe house, the streets of Berlin bustling around them, unaware of the clandestine battles being fought in the shadows. As they entered the apartment, the weight of the world seemed to settle on Angela's shoulders. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in rich hues of red and orange, mirroring the blood that had spilled in the name of ideology. The Cold War had birthed an invisible divide, a chasm that threatened to swallow entire nations. Tonight will be pivotal, Hawthorne stated, breaking the momentary silence. If we can gather evidence of Friedrich's ties to the Soviets, we might turn the tide in favor of democracy. Let us set up surveillance equipment, Emily suggested, her fingers poised above the keyboard of her laptop. I can monitor communications and provide intel in real time. We need to be ready to adapt on the fly. As they meticulously prepared for the evening's rendezvous, Angela's mind wandered. This battle wasn't just political, it was intensely personal. The betrayal of her past haunted her, and now she stood on the precipice of changing her country's fate. Hours later, as night fell over Berlin, the trio approached the warehouse, cloaked in darkness. The building loomed ahead, battered and forgotten, a relic of a bygone era. Shadows danced along the walls, and the air buzzed with an unsettling energy. We'll need to split up, Hawthorne decided, his voice barely above a whisper. Angela, you'll go in first and act like you're alone. Emily and I will maintain our distance, but keep an eye on everything. Be careful, Angela cautioned, looking between them. If this is a trap, we won't have much time. Just remember, trust your instincts, Emily added. With a final nod, Angela steeled herself and crept toward the entrance of the warehouse. The door creaked ominously as she pushed it open, revealing the cavernous interior. Dark shapes loomed around her, the air thick with dust and uncertainty. The sound of footsteps echoed, and she felt her heart race. Friedrich and several figures emerged from the darkness, their silhouettes stark against the dim light filtering through broken windows. "Welcome, Angela," Friedrich greeted, his voice low and taunting. "I see you've brought your courage. What a brave little soldier you are." "I am not afraid of you, Friedrich," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Ah, the truth," he mused, a menacing grin spreading across his face. "But who has truth, the Americans or mine?" The tension crackled in the air, and Angela felt the presence of the other figures around her. She knew she had to play her part carefully. "Show me the evidence of your connection to Moscow, or I'll expose you for the coward you are." Friedrich laughed, a chilling sound that echoed within the warehouse walls. "You think you're in control here? You're surrounded, and you're outnumbered." At that moment, a door slammed shut behind her, the sound reverberating through the cavernous space. Angela's heart sank as she realized she had walked directly into a trap. But before she could react, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "That's where you were wrong, Friedrich." Hawthorne and Emily emerged from their hidden positions, weapons drawn, a fierce determination in their eyes. "You've been playing a dangerous game, and it's time to end it," Hawthorne declared, stepping forward, his stance unyielding. The atmosphere shifted, the air thickening with the weight of confrontation. Angela's heart raced, knowing that the outcome of this night would ripple far beyond the confines of the warehouse. Would they manage to gather evidence against Friedrich, or would they become casualties in a war that threatened to consume them all? As the standoff unfolded, the fate of a nation hung precariously in the balance, teetering on the edge of chaos. The Cold War was not just a fight for ideology, it was a battle for survival, and as the shadows closed in, the final act of this harrowing tale was about to unfold. Tension crackled in the air as Hawthorne and Emily squared off against Friedrich and his cohorts. The warehouse loomed like a silent witness, its walls steeped in history, much like the ideological battle that had brought them all to this moment. "Back away from her, Friedrich," Hawthorne commanded, his voice sharp as a whip. The shadows deepened around them, revealing the grim faces of Friedrich's followers, men and women who had succumbed to the allure of revolution, each one a thread in the tangled web of a divided Germany. Friedrich chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "Do you think you can intimidate me, Major? The tide is turning, and I have the support of the people. They're tired of American intervention and the remnants of a regime that has only brought them suffering." Angela's heart raced. She had come here to gather evidence, but the reality was slipping away as the realization dawned this was more than just a clash of ideals. It was a fight for the soul of Germany itself. "You're wrong, Friedrich," she interjected, her voice steady. "The people want stability, not chaos. They want to rebuild, not return to the clutches of tyranny." His eyes blazed with fervor. "You think you speak for them, but you don't understand their pain. You've lost touch with the very heart of this nation." Hawthorne stepped forward, raising his weapon slightly. "Enough of this. You're going to show us those communications, or are we going to take you in? This isn't just about you anymore." Friedrich hesitated, the flicker of uncertainty crossing his features momentarily before it was replaced by resolve. "You think your guns can silence the truth? The truth is a weapon, and I am not afraid to wield it." Suddenly, one of Friedrich's accomplices lunged at Emily, but she was quicker, ducking and delivering a swift kick to his knee, sending him sprawling. Hawthorne took advantage of the distraction, firing a warning shot that ricocheted off a metal beam, creating a deafening echo. "Angela, get down!" Hawthorne shouted as chaos erupted. The warehouse erupted into a flurry of movement, bodies colliding in a deadly dance of ideology and survival. Angela ducked behind an old crate as gunfire rang out, the noise mingling with shouts and screams. The confrontation blurred into a maelstrom. Hawthorne and Emily fought valiantly, their training kicking in as they engaged in a fierce struggle with Friedrich's followers. Angela glanced around, her mind racing for options. She needed to find a way to turn the tide. Amidst the chaotic scene, she spotted a dusty stack of crates at the far end of the warehouse. Could she reach them unnoticed? With determination coursing through her veins, she made a dash for cover, her heart pounding louder than the gunfire. She called out as she ran, hoping to draw his attention away from her allies. He reoccurred, hiding behind other people as pain. He whipped around, eyes narrowing. "You think you can provoke me, little girl? You'll regret this." As she reached the crates, she quickly spotted a broken window high above. It was a risky move, but she had seen enough to know that their fight was not just for survival, it was for the very future of Germany. She climbed onto the crates, steadied herself, and readied her voice. People of Germany, this man is leading you down a path that will destroy everything you've fought for. Look around you. This is not a revolution, it is a betrayal. The words echoed through the warehouse, momentarily distracting Friedrich and his followers. The one of them yelled, but it was too late. The flicker of doubt in their eyes indicated a chink in their armor. Hawthorne seized the opportunity, taking down another attacker while Emily backed him up, expertly disarming a man who had advanced toward Angela's position. Do you hear her? Hawthorne shouted over the chaos. She speaks the truth. You read nothing but pawns in a dangerous game. Friedrich's face twisted with rage. You read too late, Major. This is just the beginning. In a sudden surge of desperation, he pulled a small device from his pocket, a detonator. One step closer, and I'll bring this place down around us. The truth will die with you. Angela yelled, terror gripping her heart. With a quick glance at Hawthorne and Emily, she knew they had to act fast. Friedrich, remember who you were. This isn't the way to bring about change. For a brief moment, doubt flickered in his eyes once more, but it was quickly overshadowed by his convictions. I will not let you take this away from me. I'm fighting for our future. In that instant, various emotions clashed within him. The remnants of his humanity battled against the dark choices he had made. Friedrich, Angela pressed, her voice steady despite the chaos. This isn't to you. You've lost sight of what matters. This isn't to you about people. It is about power. Amidst the swirling chaos, a war raged within him, but he remained resolute. You don't understand. But it was too late. Hawthorne, emboldened by Angela's courage, took a bold step forward. You think this will save you? You're redestroying the very foundation of the nation you claim to love. Look around you. Is this what you want? As Hawthorne's words hit home, the tension hung in the air like a tightly drawn bowstring. Friedrich's grip on the detonator faltered, just for a moment. Stand down, Friedrich, Emily urged, her voice cutting through the pandemonium. You'll only create more chaos, more suffering. In that pivotal moment, the choice lay before him: continue down this dark path of destruction or reconsider his actions. With a roar of frustration, he threw the detonator across the room, and it clattered harmlessly against the wall. This isn't over, he shouted, but the fight in him seemed to wane, the fire of revolutionary fervor flickering. Hawthorne seized the moment, rushing forward to tackle Friedrich to the ground. We're taking you in, he declared, his voice steady as he restrained him. As the scuffle continued, the remaining followers hesitated, uncertainty creeping into their ranks. Angel called out to them again. This isn't the future you want. Stand with us for democracy, not chaos. One by one, their faces shifted from anger to confusion, and then realization. They slowly lowered their weapons, surrendering to the greater cause. With Friedrich now subdued, the warehouse fell into a heavy silence. The reality of what they had just experienced settled in. Are you okay? Hawthorne asked Angela, breathlessly surveying the aftermath. But we need to ensure this doesn't happen again, she replied, determination rekindled. We need to expose everything. As authorities arrived, alerted by the commotion, Angela, Hawthorne, and Emily stood amidst the remnants of chaos, knowing that they had staved off a greater threat. In the days that followed, as news of the exposed conspiracy spread across Germany, the people began to rally behind the ideals of democracy and unity rather than division. Angela emerged not just as a leader, but as a voice for a nation yearning for hope. She had faced the specter of betrayal and emerged stronger, embodying the enduring spirit of her people. The Cold War would continue to cast its shadow, but in this pivotal moment, the resilience of a unified Germany shone brightly against the encroaching darkness. In the aftermath, as Angela stood in front of a gathering crowd, she felt the weight of history shift. This battle was a reminder that the war for hearts and minds would always be fought, and the true victory lay in the struggle for a shared future. No longer just pawns in a geopolitical game, they were players in their own destiny. The soul of a generation had been forged in the fires of conflict, and together they would navigate the tumultuous tides of an uncertain era, embracing the promise of a brighter tomorrow.